left you on a cliffhanger there. Okay. So next up, we are going to jump straight into a panel. We are not going to go for an ad break this time. Live TV is always a dream. Hi, Lee. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Amy?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. We are a good few sessions in at this point, and we've seen so many different things. But this panel coming up, can you give us a brief overview of what this panel is going to be about?
Yeah, definitely. So, the key challenge that's been set to discuss today is, with many teaching resources being available online, really reputable machine learning courses are now available on Udacity, Coursera, and lots of other learning platforms. It's really about, what do you need to learn as a student to become ready for AI and ML? And are university degrees really teaching the right things? And what do I need to become professional? So we've got a great panel of academics, professional authors, and industrialized people to talk about and share their best practice about how they're implementing really great training into their existing university courses, or producing amazing materials on Coursera and Udacity to allow students to learn in both ways. So I'd like to introduce our panel of speakers to everyone here today. If we just start going in a clockwise audience, so Ajit, would you like to introduce yourself?
Oh, hang on one second, Lee. We just need all of our panelists to, there we go. Aisha, do we have your video? Could you just turn on your video? Fantastic. There we go. We're all there. Take it away, Lee.
Excellent. Ajit, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Sure. Thank you, Lee. Can you hear me well?
Yes, can you?
Good. Yeah. So thank you for inviting me. I'm Ajit Jaukar. I'm the course director of the Oxford University course Artificial Intelligence, Cloud and Edge Computing. And it does pretty much what it says, meaning that it's a full stack AI course. And we cover the whole thing from cloud to edge devices, including also the MLOps space, meaning taking AI models in Docker containers and pushing them to edge devices. This broadly covers what I do at Oxford. Yeah.
Excellent. I'll introduce Aisha next because she's from Oxford as well.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm the lead AI tutor in the Oxford course. I'm contributing and supporting all the coding sprints of the entire course, on entire section of the course. And I mainly teach how to deploy and machine learning modules in a container and on the edge devices.
Thanks, Aisha. So over to Noah. Oh, you're on mute, Noah, sorry.
My name is Noah Gift. I teach at Duke's data science program, MIDS, and also at Northwestern. And most of my focus is around cloud computing, ML ops, DevOps, and I also have created courses for Udacity and Microsoft Azure, and also Coursera. And I'm currently writing a book called Practical ML Ops with O'Reilly.
Excellent. Thank you, Noah. And Ananda.
Hello, everyone. Get to see everybody virtually. I hope you can all hear me fine. I'm a principal teaching fellow in the Department of Computing at Imperial College, and I teach across a range of undergraduate and graduate programs. And I'm come from a slightly more of a systems background, but obviously I've also been involved with getting to grips with AI and ML and helping out with courses in my department as well. Great to see you.
That's excellent. Thank you. So as you can see, everyone, we've got some great speakers on the call with a great variety of experience. So the first question I'd like to open up is, why is ML and AI such a topic for learners at the moment? So Ananda, why do you think it's such a popular topic?
Yeah, thanks, Lee. So currently, I think they've come leaps and bounds in recent years, primarily aided by the improvement in hardware. The speeds of and processing speeds have enormously improved. But the key thing has also been the availability of data. Data science itself has taken off a lot in recent years. And the leaps and bounds in terms of the problems that people have tried to solve recently, we're getting lots of cutting edge things coming. So it's extremely important for people to get into this field. And it's a really exciting time for students and for industry as well.
That's great. So Noah, you've done lots of books around this area. So again, why are you seeing so much interest?
I think part of it is that many people realize this is where the jobs are going to be created, is in machine learning, cloud computing, and AI. And we're really at the early stages. A lot of the stuff that we're looking at, even self-driving cars, they're still at an early stage. And the operationalization appears to be one of the key issues that is going to get solved in the next, let's say, 5 years. And it's really an execution problem. If you look at some of the stuff that's happened with the global pandemic, we have the technology already available to do things like detect whether people are wearing masks or, enhance drug discovery. And really there was an execution problem in that we just weren't able to implement those methodologies. So it feels like there's a huge opportunity for people, and they see this, and that's why they want to get involved in AI and ML.
Excellent. So Ajit, this really brings on a great question to you around how your course is being developed, and it's really being developed to service that need of changing of careers and opportunities in AI and ML, isn't it?
Yes, that is exactly right. And I think that we are in a way we are kind of a mixture, in the sense that we are an academic institution in Oxford, but our course is an industry-facing course. And I think that I would kind of echo the something which Ananda said was about large problems. Yes, so we are looking at things which are fairly large problems, especially around AI. And that's where you have the sort of the vision of a large university, along with the depth of the research we have, along with the interesting, in our case, certainly the very enterprise focus. So that's been the vision of the course. And that's also been kind of the way we work so closely with industry, sort of working on this whole idea of taking things practically, putting them in MLOps, containers, and right up to edge devices. So yeah.
Excellent. So actually, as Ajit said, you're doing lots of things with lots of new different technologies. So how are you finding teaching these latest technologies?
Yes. Yeah, I completely agree with all the speakers. AI and ML is so topical nowadays because also we are using more and more AI in our daily lives, like voice recognition, object detection, in healthcare, in games. But also, I just want to mention here, it is a very complex topic at the same time because it is more than just learning how to code. It has very complicated mathematical algorithms. And here also we need to think about the security aspect. For example, when we look at the IoT devices like Azure Sphere, and when we think of running machine learning models on the edge devices, we should definitely consider about its security. Yes, I agree, it is so topical. At the same time, it is a very complex topic.
Excellent. So this really brings me on to my next question is, what do universities need to do to keep their courses and learning relevant and, more importantly, interesting? So Ananda, what things have you been doing with Imperial to do that?
Yeah. Traditionally, universities were thought of as more keepers of knowledge, but that's not the case anymore. Knowledge is widely available. A lot of people have access to it. So in a way, for us to be able to keep it relevant, it's very important for us to keep the things relevant. So we need to be able to make sure that we engage with industry, bring in some of the industry-facing problems, like what Ajit and Aisha were mentioning about the fact that you've got lots of these problems that industries have, and we need to bring that on board, show more real life examples, and in order to motivate the students in the classroom, because our job is to give them a sound understanding of the thing, but at the same time show them how this is being applied, and that kind of gives a good link between learning and actually doing it as well in the real world.
Definitely. And I think, as Aisha said, it's about teaching the fundamentals and then the application of in that scenario based learning, whether it's a capstone project or a group-based project or an individual-based project.
Absolutely, because you want to keep it relevant to the knowledge that they're gaining in the classroom.
Definitely. So Noah, you've got experiences across a number of different scenarios from, US institutions being teaching actual classes from undergraduate to masters. What are the key things that you're seeing in terms of, keeping interest in learning?
Yeah, I think that one of the real key issues here is that education is undergoing a transformation, and in particular, the concept of maybe everyone is a tenured faculty member and they have a job for life and they're focused on research, and then there's teaching is less of a priority. I think is really not. It's peaked, and so now what's happening is you see Udacity, Coursera, these edX, these MOOCs. You also see the cloud companies themselves having to create the content because it wasn't happening at the university level. And so really what's happening is there's an emergence of other ways that people can learn the material. So I think the best approach that a university can take is to embrace the wave. It's like a 100-foot wave coming. And if they ride it and they use those platforms, use Coursera, use Udacity, use the cloud content that's coming from, let's say, Microsoft, and integrate it into the curriculum, and also focus not only on the short term, but subscription-based learning for the next 10, 20 years. I think many programs are also realizing that it's not enough to just get a master's degree. You may need to give the student a subscription for the next 20 years, like Netflix, where they're constantly learning the new material. So I think it's a fundamental reorganization of education.
Definitely. And I think, this really brings us again back to what the work we've been doing with Oxford and AGIT around Microsoft Learn, so we've been actually including Microsoft Learn modules within the courses to make that practical element. So they're teaching the fundamentals and foundations. So AGIT, how have you found, blending this learning approach?
Yeah, so I think that for me, the most important thing, because like I said, we are a very unique course, we're a very complex course because we are covering such a lot of depth within a relatively short time, about 4 months. Yes. So for us, the bigger thing is what I call as cognitive dependencies and cognitive overload. Yes. So cognitive dependencies, meaning that once you start a new concept, you must be sure that something else which has preceded it has also been covered. Otherwise, you lose people at that. And then there is cognitive overload, meaning that you're introducing too many new things in a very short time. And the classic AI is that situation. So we found the experience with Learn to be very useful in that sense, because that allowed us to bring a whole bunch of new things, which sometimes we may not have taught, but we can point to people that this is where they need to look into it, and also specifically driving around scenarios, which is extremely useful from our point of view, because what that then anchors the sort of the abstract to the physical, and then brings a very narrow chunk of segment of learning. Yes, because you start something, you end something. A scenario had a start and an end, and there is result. Yes, so I think this is how we see this whole kind of blending of learning, and it is new for everybody, including us, because we've not had to do this online until the start of COVID. And since the start of COVID, I have run 3 fairly large courses online, which is a dramatic shift. And in that sense, it's a great thing for us to sort of accelerate the learning in that sense.
Excellent. So, the whole COVID situation is impacted everyone around the globe. Aisha, as a tutor on the course, what sort of things have you had to change in the way you're tutoring the course?
Sorry, can I get the question again?
Yeah, so, have you had to change the way you work with students now, moving to a remote basis?
Yes. Actually, my main role is to teach the concept of the edge and the concept of the machine learning on the device. So by using the Microsoft Learn modules, I'm giving the students a big picture about the edge computing, IoT, and machine learning, how to run the machine learning on the devices theoretically. But then after the session, the students take a Microsoft Learn modules and they have a practical experience by going to models and running them themselves. So this is really good for us, to use the Microsoft Learn module, so students gain practical experience with that.
Excellent. So, I think we all agree there's a huge opportunity for both students doing like vocational learning and using courses like Udacity and Coursera, and doing the fundamentals with the capstone projects, practicals and labs. Is there any like key materials or learning that you think students should have within those courses? What the key areas that students today should be thinking about looking at? So first to Noah.
Yeah, I think one of the things that is really a change is that, because my background is really from industry, and in industry, you have to create a product. And if you're working as a mobile developer, typically every week you need to have a new release of the mobile app, or a web developer, you need to have a new release. I feel like if you're able to teach people to create demos and portfolios, and that's for me, that's the courses I create. The outcome is you have a GitHub profile, you have a YouTube video, and you show that you have demonstrated mastery of, let's say, Azure ML Studio, or a computer vision project, or a data engineering project. I think that's one of the key differences that I'm pushing students for, is that there's a very specific outcome, and it's not just theory, which theory is very important, but there's an artifact that's permanent that someone can take with them for the rest of their career.
Definitely. And, you actually shared one of those with me yesterday, so last night. And for me, that's amazing to see when, I can see a student and they've got a GitHub repo and they've got a great video about on the YouTube of how they've done that project and what they've worked on it. And again, we've been doing very similar things with both Ananda and with Ajit around capstone projects. So, that's like that. My biggest, compliment to students is when you do things, showcase what you do, because that is your CV and portfolio material. There's thousands of students today doing a machine learning AI class, but what makes you different to a potential employer like Microsoft or even within the institution? So for me, it's portfolio piece, having a demonstratable piece that is a GitHub repo and a video is awesome. So Ananda, in terms of those experiences in the courses, what sort of extra things do you advise students to do?
Yeah, so what we try to do is we sometimes get alumni involved as well, just to kind of see that we get their experience, to see when they were in the classroom, was there something that they felt that they missed? And it's a good learning experience because they kind of bring in their experience and then they tell their students, you know what, in the first year, second year, I was advised this, I didn't quite do it, but actually this is a good idea. So, sometimes listen to your teachers. It's a good thing.
Yeah, and then,
so alumni bring in a really nice field in terms of advising students. So we try to hold industry specific talks. We've had Microsoft as one of our partners on the talks, as you know. So they kind of bring in experiences from that, and they are able to tell and engage with the students to say, as you're learning, as Noah mentioned, there are certain things that you can build your profile on as you're part of your learning, so that when it comes to applying or when it comes to showing off, you're not panicking and then trying to reactively try to do all these. You've actually proactively done your portfolio, proactively kept track of stuff, proactively kept up to date with what's happening. So then it's automatic. So when you're ready, your stuff is ready to be shown to anybody you'd like to show it. So it's very important to involve industry and alumni to kind of advise students, because they are the ones who are seeing CVs and they're on the other side after graduation.
Definitely. And I think, from Ajit's perspective, I noticed on your course you have lots of well-reputable guest speakers and presenters. So again, is that a key thing for you in terms of building that engagement with students to get them interested in these areas?
Yes, so there's two sides to this. I mean, other than what everybody else has said about having a portfolio and stuff like that. So the first thing for us is about a hard problem. Yes, so this is very important, because today, if you just do a regression or classification and put it online, I guess just about everybody's doing that. Yes. So in Oxford specifically, so this morning we had a talk with Paul Clark, who is the CTO of Ocado, and he's an amazing person in the depth of his experience in sort of robotics and how the future in mobility and autonomous vehicles, etc. So we, from our point of view, we expose people to the really hard problems, because we are Oxford in that sense, and we try to get people thinking beyond just the code or just the hardware, just the software or something like this. This is all about putting all those things together to solve really big problems. So we are pretty much an engineering-led course, and this is what we mean by that. So we are looking at solving hard, complex problems within the engineering field. And this is, I think, what would distinguish a lot of people going forward, because to me, the bar has shifted to a much higher level now. Yes. So, I mean, even 2 years, 3 years ago, people were doing sort of simple stuff on GitHub and getting kind of noticed. Today, if you do a CNN, just about, everybody can do a CNN,
And there's super tools like Lobe AI, which you can just build a machine learning model in 2 minutes. Yeah.
Exactly. So the bar has risen, and this is what I was trying to emphasize. Yeah.
That's a great example. And I think, we've got some, you're all from amazing institutions around the globe, and we've got callers from all around the world on this call. So what advice could you give to a student who doesn't go to one of the top Ivy League or Russell Group universities? And is there a great way or a good way for them to get the same education online? So Noah, I think this has to go to you first of all.
Yeah, I do think that, it's a little, the question's a little bit like saying, is a Mercedes a good car? And it's like, of course. Or is a Tesla a good car? It's like, if you can afford it, great. But at the same time, I think there are also probably many other ways that have, there's other cars that are also great cars, right? That are not as expensive. So it's the same thing where I think you can get incredible content directly from Microsoft. I mean, you can go to, like you said, Microsoft Learn, and you can get equivalent material. And in particular, I think part of it is that it's the portfolio is the key. And I think that this was mentioned just briefly, the hard problem plus the portfolio. You can do the same thing. And so if you're able to get access to the best material, and there's lots of resources now, and that's probably the biggest change in the last maybe 10 years is that, and I think another person mentioned this, is that it used to be locked away at the university. It's not locked away anymore. And so I do think every single, a billion people on Earth could do the same thing that you're doing at any university, as long as you're creating that artifact, the artifact of your portfolio, and you're comparing yourself in a realistic way to other people, so that you're creating something that's comparable or better.
Excellent. So, Aisha, you're still a tutor. You're still learning. So, as someone who is probably the youngest person on this call, what do you do to keep knowledgeable and up to date on technology? Because you're trying to teach it, support it, and provide amazing advice to students.
Yes. My first advice would be, if the person is getting started to learn the machine learning and AI, I can recommend that they need to make sure that they understand the basic of the computer language programming that they are using. So for that computer language language programming, for that language, I would recommend the Python. So then once you have done with the Python, it is you can move into the machine learning. And if you ask me where to start to learn machine learning, I can say start from the basic algorithms like linear regression, KNN, SVM, because they are fundamentals, and they're important to understand how things work. And then once you are done with the learning, the algorithms, then you can go and you can practice them in the online platform. Like it could be Coursera, could be Microsoft Learn. I checked the Microsoft Learn, for example. You are using these machine learning algorithms in different modules, so you can have practice. You can do the practice as well.
Excellent. So just coming up to wrapping this up. So really, I just want some top tips from each of you around how students can get started on learning AI and ML and feel confident in building that amazing portfolio. So Ananda.
Yeah, I think I'd like to echo what Noah and Aisha have just said. Extremely good advice from both of them. Material, lots available. What is key is to get a good understanding of that material and understand the theory behind it. And most importantly, get your hands dirty by trying things out and learning by doing. Because it's all about saying, oh, I put a few libraries together and I've done this. But do you understand behind it? What happens if you change things? And that's the level of understanding that they need to have. And for that, you learn by doing. You need to take the theory, understand it, and learn by doing it.
Excellent. So, AJ?
Okay, so top tips, just very briefly, there are two things. First of all, I would like to say that the university courses, including us, surprisingly enough, as an offshoot of COVID, are available worldwide, which is very unusual. Until about 6 months ago, you had to come to Oxford physically, and we've had people from Australia do that as well. But it is good that it is available online. The second point is a bit of a contrarian advice to somebody who wants to come into AI, and a tip which I personally give to a lot of people. I think the AI world is still skewed towards a few areas, mostly financial services and things like that. Yes. So in my view, there is a bigger world out there, which is not yet touched. Perhaps a little bit of healthcare people are doing, but the engineering, the oil and gas, everything like this. Yes, there are all these bigger companies, industries, which are not even touched by any of these things. Yes, and I think there is a huge opportunity there, because in my mind, AI will touch, and this is why in Oxford we look at Azure Sphere, we look at those Aisha mentioned about the security, or we are looking at 5G again with Microsoft working with some of those areas, and I think those are the areas we see that there will be huge growth potential going forward in AI.
Excellent. So Noah.
Yeah, I think that one thing that people can do that is again, the online courses are great material, and in addition, what are the other things that you can do to make yourself look different than the competition? And one of the ways is certification, and this is something that is a lot of times is just neglected. Is someone says, oh, I have the material or I have the degree, but it's actually not that much more effort to just go to let's say, get the Azure Associate Data Scientist certification, which is really a machine learning engineering certification. Is you're checking the box that's going to allow you to get that next position. And then likewise with the portfolio, by creating that portfolio piece that's really shows exactly what you've done, and especially if you can create several different types of portfolio pieces. So maybe you do something with computer vision, maybe you do something for data engineering, you do something for ML ops, and then you also get the certification. I think those really are the things that are the basics that a lot of people don't do, and it's very easy to separate yourself from the pack because you did the things that other people wouldn't do. There's that expression, right, that says you do today what others can't because previously you did what they wouldn't, or something like that.
So yeah, I would like to just say a huge thank you to all our speakers. Noah touched on it there about certification and accreditation. And I think, that's a real key point, is to make yourself stand out above the crowd now. It's not just having a degree or a college certificate, it's also having that professional certification and that experience. So a huge thanks to everyone. And again, I'd like just to pass this back to Dimitri. I know he might have just one more question, but over to you, Dimitri.
Thank you, Lee. That was really a great panel. It was so nice to hear the advice like learn Python and learn the basics of algorithms, because that's exactly what we started this conference from the basics of machine learning algorithms. I think just one more point is that going to university, of course, brings you also the environment, like people, friends, and those kind of things, which you cannot get online. But otherwise, it just requires a little bit more efforts from you, and you can get the same great education just by yourself. So we are living in a great world now. Thank you, Lee, again for putting this panel.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you, Lee. Thanks. Bye.
Let's run a short commercial and then proceed with our program.